How's it go?
All right. Oh, there we are.
Boom. Hey, what's up, YouTube?
BRS hats on today, 360 hats.
Boom. Yeah, this is my favorite time of the week. I don't know. We did so much stuff, and this time 2 weeks. So a lot of people are asking where we were.
I was in the wilderness with Dave behind the screen here, and we were lost with no cell phone reception. Not really lost, we knew where we were, but Boundary Waters. Just gone for 7 days. And
I was in my driveway building this. That's how I spend my vacation. All right, so this week we got a whole bunch of stuff. We got how to cycle a bare bottom tank. We have how we got water, auto top off, some heaters.
Yeah.
We got all kinds of different stuff. Like the cycle thing, though, really probably the heart of today's video. So if you're thinking about cycling dry rock, or you're thinking about cycling dry rock with a bare bottom specifically, this one's going to be pretty valuable, I think.
And it's some tips and tricks on some DIY acrylic stuff.
Yeah, we built a couple of cool things.
We're not professionals.
No, we're not. All right, so the very first thing here I wanted to hit on was actually, I had a really fun project. So if you follow my Facebook BRStv guy on Facebook, you got to see me build this aquascape in my garage here. So it's kind of like a negative space guy. So you get to see it come together, learn. I mean, that was my first time doing it, so I learned it in real time.
Did you coin that term, the negative space aquascape, NSA, I guess you could call it?
I'm calling it NSA from now on. I don't know, maybe somebody else has said that before. I have no idea.
This is my style right here. That's what I would hope for.
So the coolest thing actually, I think, was that I'd never done with these. All it was me trying to recreate what Top Shelf Aquatics did for me in my aquascape. And I'm like, man, I would be really cool to do this for other people. And the same week, actually, Than over at Tyval Gardens did almost the exact same thing.
Yeah, sweet.
Right?
Yeah.
And you know what's cool too? Is Than had never done it before either.
Yeah, he's messing around.
Yeah, and so that's the beauty of this hobby, is after, I don't know how long Than's been in the hobby, but I've been in for about 16 years. There's still things I've never done, and I can spend a whole week in my driveway, trying to figure out how to do.
Well, I mean, you might have made a lot of people kind of, jealous or envious of your Haitian rock negative space look, because I can't even get Haitian rock if I wanted it.
So many people see it like, oh, I mean, how would you do this? I'm like, I don't know. I'm sorry.
You can't. Well, if you could buy it, here's how you do it.
Yeah, if you could find some miraculous stuff. So maybe you could show the video here real quick. Yeah, I mean, you see this stuff, and that's negative space. So you can see through it, you can see around it, it builds up, it builds down. There's just like all kinds of cool juts out on this thing. And no matter how cool you think it looks on video, and in person, like the 3D effect, like it's just so awesome how it comes out everywhere. All right, here's the thing, is like you asked me how to do this, and I could tell you a little bit about it, but then I'd have to tell you that Haitian rock just isn't available. So that is a worthless thing to say.
And it's like lettuce coral skeleton or something like that too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
So what if you could do this same thing that we did in the 360, but using readily available rock from Marco, right?
So up until like this point, when you've done this, it's if you go back and look at all of our videos on aquascaping, even the 750XXL, it's stack, 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 and then fill in the joints with the little chunks and pieces so it looks like a natural thing. But it's a stack of rocks in the end. The end.
I think there's a photo here. I pulled one off of Reef to Reef. Right before that one, actually. There you go. It is. So yeah, it looks like this. This looks really nice.
I've had tanks that look like this.
Yeah, and I would call this job well done. Yet at the same time, it's
a stack of rocks.
It's still just stacking rocks, right? I don't know. It's cool. Then they also make shelf rock. I found a post by Greg Carroll here. He found one. And so maybe there you go, that one right there. And so another totally cool look for an aquascape. Using shelf, just totally different thing.
Reminiscent of the 750. There's a couple similarities here that I'm seeing between these two. The stack of rock and the shelf rock it's kind of like built from the bottom up. It's all on top of each other, and you kind of lose a lot of the ability to do So stuff like this.
Yeah, you can't go through it in most cases. You can't go around it in many cases. I don't know. It's not that they're bad. This is just a different option, which is kind of like creating your own branch type rock. So end of story here is you can do this.
Yeah.
And all you do is take a hammer and a chisel and break the stuff up and then reassemble it back into whatever shape that you want. This thing right here is like 25 different pieces of rock.
Just broken.
Yeah, and so Randy and I are actually going to do it for a 120. So we'll create a YouTube video on how to do this for a 120-gallon tank. But later on Facebook, because I'm going to finish the story there about how this whole process went. So there's like 4 episodes of this one. I'm going to finish it later on tomorrow, and you can see it. And here's the big deal.
Oh.
I'm going to give this guy away. So over on my Facebook page, you can do it. You can go over there, BRStv guy, and I'm going to give this thing away. And I'm pretty certain it fits inside of a Red Sea Nano.
The Max Nano?
Yeah, it comes with lighting, filtration, the whole thing. So we're going to give that away too. So if you want to see it, go ahead and check out my page and we'll see it there.
And the link to your page is in the description and that first comment pinned right at the top of this video. So
yeah, I don't know exactly how I'm going to give it away over there, but the story started there, so I'm going to finish it over there. But I will come back to YouTube and give a full rundown of how to do this, especially in a bigger scale and a bigger tank.
Yeah.
I think it'll be super fun. All right. So what's next here? And so I think that was all the aquascape, but we're going to hit on the cycling thing here.
Yeah, we talked a lot about the aquascaping and stuff last time, but now...
Oh, there's a little video of this thing in 3D here, man. I just want to show you real quick.
Check this out. So this is it. This is the one that's sitting right next to us on the table, what you could potentially win. But look at this.
This is like a little bit of piece of history I feel like I'm giving away. Like, this is my very first negative or NSA aquascape. I don't know. I'm pretty excited about it. Like, and it's really, really secure too. Now that I finished it, and I'll show you how we finished it to make sure that I'm pretty confident I'm gonna be able to ship this even, but it will definitely hold weight. So I don't know. I'm really excited about it. All right. So cycling a tank. So I got my own negative space aquascape with
and negative space meaning that like far less surface area than your normal stack of rocks. Especially even more so with no sand, we being bare bottom. So now I've got even less surface area for beneficial bacteria. So cycling now becomes like a challenge.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have like almost no surface area because I probably have 1/3 the amount of rock that you would have in there normally. And again, none of the sand.
Yeah.
So it's been my experience now that you need to compensate for that, or at least that you'll have better initial results if you do compensate that. So we went ahead and tried a new method. We built this thing.
Yeah, that was, I mean, there were some trials and tribulations in it. We actually did pretty good, when I think about it, and how the top tray stacks on the bottom tray and locked into place. And there's like 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch of sand in there, and then we broke up some rock rubble and threw that in there too. Yeah.
So here's the thing: is I wanted to add filtration to the sump. And there was a bunch of options for it. I could add sand down there. I could add rubble down there. I could add those filtration blocks.
Blocks, yeah.
Yeah. And so the blocks, I think, are a really, really cool idea for if you don't have the space to do anything else.
You can really stack.
I just need to put a brick somewhere. I mean, that's the way I'd go.
Right.
But I happen to have a pretty big sump, and so I built something custom to house some sand down there. It's in a little tray that's easy to clean. It's got some rubble in there, easy to clean. So every couple of months, maybe I'll totally clean one out and leave the other one alone, kind of swap them out or whatnot.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be exciting. So this is really the thing that I learned in the last year, I guess, about bare bottoms. Is it's not about having super established live rock. It's not about having a biofilter using bricks is going to be the cure or whatever. Yeah. It's just having an established filter of some kind. Right is the big thing. So having the right bacteria, having an established biofilter, and I can tell you we learned that from this video right now. So this is the E170. And this is 1-year-old live rock on a 15-month-old tank.
Yeah, it was the rock from, I guess we could call it a failure in the SPS ULM tank, but the rock was still good. So when we revamped it and turned it into this BRS WWC hybrid method SPS tank in a smaller tank, we got to reuse all this rock. And That purple color there doesn't do it much justice. That's not cyano or anything. That's just color of the rock in the core line. But
yeah, this is a awesome example of what you can do inside of 15 months if you have an established biofilter. No bacterial blooms. It was bare bottom. I had no problem starting up this bare bottom tank. No problem. Another example of this in a totally different direction was this. So those are the flow test tanks, right?
Yeah, so in this one, we took these bricks that you see underneath each one of those frag racks had been sitting in this skimmer test tank. That's kind of like our dry rock, our rock holding tank and equipment and some corals and whatnot, but it's been sitting in there for months and months and months. And so we just dropped a brick in each one of these. And again, the biggest thing that we found with bare bottoms, big bacterial blooms, issues with corals going in there right off the bat and just not surviving. But with an established biofilter, we ended up with, what do we have, like almost 100, over 100 and some corals?
I think it was 144 corals. There was 30 some of them in each one of these tanks.
Yeah.
Zero mortalities. So all of these corals did super fine. All we did is throw a brick down there. So it wasn't about having 100 pounds of live rock on hand that has been sitting in a tank for 5 years or live rock out of the ocean. It's just about having an established biofilter. So here's the other flip side of that conversation, though. When
you take something that has once been, or that is live, it comes with all of its problems too.
Yeah, so here we go. This was out of the UV tank experiments, right? And so, these came out of a tank, the rock came out of a tank that had been up for a long time. Even some of the filters had stuff on it.
Well, and I mean, we even used that tank that rock came out of. We used it for somebody to tear down an aquarium. They'd put the rock into that holding tank, or somebody would take a fish that they didn't really need anymore, or that they were tearing down an aquarium. It would go in there also, and that's where in that experiment, that UV experiment, using all that used stuff, even the bricks from that used tank, we ended up with ulva. We ended up with chrysophytes. We ended up with all kinds of, and bacterial blooms. Yeah, all kinds of stuff.
Even though you couldn't see a single bit of ulva on there.
At the beginning?
Everywhere. Yeah, and so here's the thing. So I'm not going to do that route. The tank matters too much to me to go and take that type of risk by taking anything out of another tank and put it in this one. It's going to happen, but I just don't want to start that way.
But maybe there's an option there to, or like maybe that kind of rings a bell somewhere in your brain that goes, all right, well, rather than take this stuff out of a tank that had been set up or maybe has pests or who knows what's in there, could I just start rock that way in a tub and add some bacteria and it's not contaminated, and then just let that sit while I build my tank and build all this together, and now I've got this established
Throw some fish in the tub.
Yeah,
why not? Yeah, so I don't know the answer. Probably. So for me, this is where I'm going to go. Is I'm taking a different approach. I don't really care how long it takes, so I'm not going to add corals until I think the tank is stable. Stable being it's growing coralline algae and test corals are doing well, whatever. So if it takes a little longer, so be it. I'm on a pretty long journey here. I'm looking for a 10-year plus tank. So what happens, it takes the next few months in the beginning, so be it. I don't care. But I'd also like to find out if it can be done quicker, right? And so what we're going to do is take a more serious approach to establishing that media or biological filter faster, using bacteria as a tool to do that. You can buy bacteria, it turns out, right?
Oh, tons of it.
So everybody knows about the bacteria that you use to process ammonia, but what about all that scavenging bacteria that lives on the surfaces of rocks that fights against cyano and dinos and diatoms and all those things that are preventing those things from taking over the tank? What if we add that stuff to the tank too? So I'm going to go ahead and try that. So actually, the guys at Brightwell put together a little kit on this, which is their dry rock bacteria starter kit. Right, and so this has the ammonia stuff with the MicroBacter Start-XLM.
Yeah, that quick cycle stuff. Yep.
And then it also has a clean for later. So the clean actually will be the scavenging bacteria. So the scavenging bacteria will like go across all of the surfaces and clean it off. And like I know Greg Carroll and some other people I trust have used it and had really good success without like any ugly stage in their new tank. So
and the MicroBacter Start-XLM is live bacteria, not dormant.
Yeah, so it happens really fast. So the XLM is like the ammonia cycle, it'll be over right away.
Yeah.
So, and that's the ammonia cycle is like the thing that like I don't really care about it at all.
Yeah.
Right? It's just going to happen fast in most cases. And a lot of these products will work. The live one will happen fast, so it'll be great. I'd rather have it fast than short.
Right.
But it's actually, I think the steps after that we just like assumed in the past that our tanks were cycled, like it just meant ammonia.
Ready to go.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, in comes dry rock, and like all of a sudden everybody's like having problems they didn't have with live rock. And it's time to take everything we thought we knew about cycling live rock and transform it to today's knowledge with today's tools. And almost everybody's used dry rock today, just simply because live rock's not very available.
Yeah, because the bacteria just doesn't, like there's no, like you said, there's no bacteria fairy that's going to come and give you all of the diverse bacteria that you used to get on live rock when you set up a tank. So now you got to find ways to actually supplement that to the tank.
So the beauty of it is you get to watch it real time and see how it pans out. Maybe it takes a little longer, maybe it's a little shorter. I'm guaranteed it's going to work out one way or the other. So we built a little box to hold all of the sand and the rubble that's going to be the extra filtration in the sump.
So I wonder how much extra surface area we get from those two. And those trays are 20 by 16 trays. They're about a half an inch to 3/4 of an inch of sand. I wonder how much extra surface area
There's an immense amount of surface area on sand.
And we're on Bahama Oolite, that really fine
and
stuff.
There's all the flow of the whole tank you'll see in a minute flows right over and through this thing, so probably 3 times an hour. I think this is going to be a significant boost to the overall filtration of the tank. It certainly ain't gonna hurt.
That's true.
I don't know. It was definitely a feel-good thing. Nobody will ever know exactly. But we built it out of acrylic. So we used a router here and just chopped it up. We also used a table saw later, but router was really easy, and the table saw even easier.
Yeah. And a special, very specific blade too, because this isn't your wood cutting blade. You have to use some kind of plastic blade, and the teeth on this one's special.
So I'm not going to go through all of it because we could probably do it in another video, but there's all kinds of safety things you need to be concerned about here, and proper ways to do this. But like if you use a normal table saw blade, expect the thing to shoot in your face. It will catch, it'll chip, all kinds of other stuff. So if you can go back to that blade picture, one of the things is it's got tiny little teeth and they're almost vertical, and I think they alternate the little kerf or whatnot on the top of it too, so it just chips it little bits out of each way. So it works way better, it doesn't shoot in your face. So if you're gonna cut it up with a table saw, get the right tool.
Well, and that speaks to like, does your acrylic thing need to hold water or not hold water? In this case, the rough edges at the very end of a cut, or the router, with that hanging in a way that it changes, you end up with some nicks in there. You kind of end up with a little bit of curves and some rough spots. But in our case, like we didn't need it to be watertight. Didn't need to hold water. So that allowed us to use like a more like a gel type of bond material.
16.
Yeah, the 16 rather than the 4, and completely different process.
Yeah, so this is the bit I'll share with people is if you're looking to make a watertight box your first time, find somebody who's done it before, because there's so many steps to getting everything perfectly square. If you've woodworked, you might have a little bit of this, but this requires a level of perfection that goes beyond that if you're gonna try to hold water. If you're just trying to make a tray, anybody with a tool could do this. Go buy a router, the cheapest router they make, and you can find a way to be able to make almost any shape and glue it together using 16, which is Weld-On 16, which is like a...
it's almost like super glue kind of to some degree,
Well, it's actually a solvent with acrylic melted in it, but it works super easy. Almost anybody can do that. So don't be afraid if you're going to want to do a little acrylic project, build something for your sump. Go buy a router, or watch some YouTube videos. We'll probably produce one later. But the difference between watertight, actually a really difficult thing, especially to look nice. Just a functional box, anybody can do it.
Pretty easy. I mean, you can make frag racks. I can make all kinds of stuff if it doesn't have to be watertight.
Yeah, awesome. So this is what it looked like when it went in. So we built it with that baffle or the beveled edge there so that we can slide it in place underneath the roller mat. So on the other side of that angle is where the filter floss is. So the sand probably won't get like full of a whole lot of garbage because the filter pad there is going to suck it all out.
Essentially reducing maintenance on the sand. That, I mean, if you don't have detritus, food, and waste going into your sand bed, like if it was in a display, it almost turns into a very low maintenance type.
It'll be really interesting to see how often I need to clean it. Of course, I'll share that. But I made it so you can clean it really easy.
Right.
Just slide it right out and use a siphon or whatnot to be able to clean it out. We'll see how often, but I'm pretty certain that the floss from the the Royal Exclusive roller mat type thing, the fleece filter, will remove most of the waste, so it's not going to like really collect all the turds and stuff we talk about. But we'll find out. So that we built that, and so a couple other things I think we did here. So you just I used oolite sand here because I was pretty certain that there wasn't going to be so much flow through there that it would puff up. I guess we'll see. But you just put in about probably 3/4 of an inch of sand. Doesn't need to be deep. We're just looking for mostly the surface area, probably in the top 1/4 inch or so.
Right, exactly. And then rock rubble.
Yeah, for fun, we just threw rock rubble. The sand might have been good on its own, and I can always remove the rubble, but I threw the rubble in there for fun because it's going to add another area for filtration. And there's actually nutrients in this tank already because I'm seeing the skimmer actually work. So you can probably see that video on Facebook too. The skimmer's already turned on and working.
Probably some leftover organics on the Haitian rock or something.
Probably because I haven't fed it or anything. So there's definitely stuff coming out. So we dumped in this XLM here, and I think you can see a video of it right here. So yeah, I mean, I was pretty liberal use of it. We want to soak the media with it in this case. I want to get it ready, and so we just poured it right into the sand, right on top of all of the rubble, and in both of the trays. We'll let it soak for a while, and we'll probably just put it right in the tank. So, yeah, I mean, I was real careful to put it in slowly, but you still get a little poof from that sand. It's brand new, but it cleared up right away. So yeah, and then when we put it in there, they nested right inside of each other like the way that we hoped, and it slid right in place, and you can see all the rock and sand in there.
Look at those
now
things.
All the water has to flow over it or through the little channel below. I think this was a good solution to add extra filtration to a large sump.
Yeah, I think it's also, it depends on if I like the idea that this also might hold like pods or something like that too. I mean,
absolutely.
There's microfauna places, lots of places for stuff like that to hide now.
That is absolutely a refugium.
Yeah,
That's a safe harbor for all kinds of microfauna to be able to reproduce. And for those that people ask all the time, well, what happens if it goes through the return pump?
They'll make it.
I've watched a bunch of studies that almost anything that doesn't have super long antennae will make it right
shoot
through.
Right through.
So the return pump, if the refugium's there, will eliminate super long antennae copepods, but all the rest of it will make it right through. So I don't know. I'm pretty excited about how that whole project turned out. So the next step, obviously, is fish, right?
Yeah.
So the fish are coming.
You've already got your first ones. I was surprised at these choices. I didn't know you wanted some lightning maroon clowns.
Okay, yeah. So let's see if we get a picture of this one. So these are my actual two first fish. So these are lightning maroon clowns, right?
Female looks massive.
There's lots of opinions on whether or not. So Elliot over at Marine Collectors, most of you probably know who my fish guy is, but Elliot at Marine Collectors got those for me, and he's like, I went really hard to try to not find the 1-inch ones you always find. So he's got, like you said,
those
big
are
ones.
Substantially big, yeah.
So for me, I've always liked maroon clowns, but I've never had one. I've always wanted one.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I just think they look cool. I've always been told they're super mean and they're aggressive, and I guess we'll see. But for the first time in a 360-gallon tank, I feel like I got enough room now for them to be able to, fight the aggression and, give them room to everything to escape. The Aquascape is so easy to go in and out of.
Yeah, for sure.
Really easy to escape any aggression for the fish. and hopefully they won't like to bite my fingers. I don't know.
So are you in your fish in your stocking now? Are you ordering them bits by? Did you give him like a list, and he's just kind of procuring those as a whole, or you just kind of?
I gave him a list, and like if you go read it in my Facebook again, there's like one of the posts has the whole list in there. I probably won't get all of them, but because who knows? Some of the stuff is pretty rare and it's hard to find.
Okay.
So, but like I got a list of stuff, man. I went through with my family and my kids, and then like.
Did you get a unicorn tank?
Yeah, not a unicorn tank, but I got a few different things in there, and I'm pretty excited about them. And like they're all things I've dreamed about for a long time, and some of them were just suggestions. Chad made some suggestions here.
Yeah.
Chad's our like resident fish guy.
Yeah.
Elliot told me some of them were dumb. Don't do those ones, or in his experience anyway. So it's shuffling around. He's probably gonna like just tell me when he comes into cool stuff too. So I don't know. Like this isn't my first tank, so. Somebody asked, "Is like, does your wife know what you're paying for these?" And like, absolutely not. Yeah, like I think she just stopped asking on some things. Like, but this is I've actually housed corals many, many, many times. Right? I got tons, and I've never really been into the fish. But now that I'm thinking about this 10-year plus tank, I'm like, these are actually really more my pets.
Oh yeah.
And I'm actually really excited about being excited about fish for the first time. So like taking it to the next level with the fish and the corals is really kind of cool for me. So you can probably see that list there if you want. But yeah, those are the first ones.
And he's gonna. He kind of doesn't Elliot also ship them to you in like smartly, and like this you should add these in first. You should add these into. He gives you the advice along with it rather than just shipping you a whole bunch of fish.
He wants success. In fact, a couple of them he told me he was going to actually fly out here because they're that rare.
Oh wow!
You don't want to.
I got to go look at that list.
I want to make sure this goes well. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how that pans out.
Yeah.
But yeah, just before, so like a week before he gets here or the fish get here, to continue on the cycle, I'm going to use this thing right here, which is their like quick cycle. This is part of that dry rock kit, and this is probably one of the most poorly understood products out there because people don't really understand what they're doing.
It says nutrients for fishless cycling.
Yeah, so basically some people are familiar with like dosing ammonia to the tank, but part of the thing that some people miss is like it actually takes a little bit of phosphorus too. And then like you read the reviews on the dry rock kit, they're actually pretty bad. And I'll tell you why, you're not I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah.
So do you know how many parts, if I put 1 part per million nitrate, how many parts per million, or ammonia in, how many parts per million nitrate come out?
3.6.
Yeah, 3.6, so almost 4 parts per million nitrate if I put 1 part per million ammonia in there. So people use these things, they use the ammonia, and then
here comes your nitrates.
They're like, oh man, I ended up with 12 parts per million nitrate and I start my tank. Well, you probably would have done the same thing using fish food and the fish cycling.
Ammonia does it faster because it's straight ammonia rather than breaking down.
Misused it. In this case, I think the process goes something like this, and I'm going to butcher it. I had to read it, but like you don't just keep dumping in ammonia, keeping the tank cycled. You should use this like shortly before you get the fish, because you don't want to just keep elevating the nitrate, and that like live bacteria that works really fast. So get it up to 1 part per million with the ammonia, and it has that little bit of phosphate in this case too. To like every biological process requires that.
Yeah.
So in that case, you should end up. It will. The MicroBacter Start-XLM will remove all the nitrate, make the tank safe, or ammonia, make it safe, and you'll probably have a residual 3.7 or 6 at the end, and that's just part of
filter it out.
That should be expected. And so that was like kind of some of the like reviews in this thing. Is I ended up with nitrate.
Yep. Exactly.
Inevitable.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. So the next thing here is water. So I've told you guys for a while about my water problems. You can see now like really what the solution was.
This one's pretty interesting too.
Yeah.
The amount of effort to go through just for your own home and use outside of aquariums.
And actually, even more interesting, I think, is the unique RO system that we ended up using for the ATO, which is right here. So can anybody tell right away what the difference between this RO and every other RO system we've ever seen is?
Something's not like the others here. It's just DI and an RO membrane.
Yeah, there's no carbon block, there's no sediment filter, there's just an RO membrane and then the Pro Series DI on the bottom. And this is why. Okay, so I have plenty of filtration, pre-filtration in the house. I got plenty of carbon, sediment filter, RO, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. There's no purpose to use a sediment filter yet again and use carbon blocks yet again. So I just made my own little custom guy. And by the way, that was a temporary solution just for auto top-up. You're going to see something really cool that we develop in the next few weeks. I'm building it with Kyle, so it'll be really neat.
Yeah. Right now it's sitting on the ground.
Just sitting on the ground there. But here's my water report. And so you can see, if you look real closely, there's 570 TDS water. I got arsenic in there. I got like sulfur-eating bacteria, iron-eating bacteria. I got like all kinds of garbage in there. So like the water is, the worst part about the whole water is actually those sulfur-eating bacterias. And like, for those of you that have never been in a house that has that.
Like well water, it always smells the same. Okay,
it smells like farts. End of story. The sulfur in there, it just stinks. And I just had to solve it. It's just like one solution after another. I had no idea. I'd never lived on well water before. Yeah. And I'm sure there's other well water that doesn't have this problem, but I do.
It's because I've been in like places in Montana back home, and the well water is bad smelling, like sulfur, and then like here you come over to the family's house and there's nothing. It doesn't smell.
It probably just depends on where you are. Yeah. So this is what I ended up having to do. So in the system, first there's a little sediment filter on the wall. You can see with the wrench, and there's a pressure gauge going into it. Then next is the cation, like typical like your water softener stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So that'll pull out most of the positive stuff like calcium. There's two of them. They go back and forth, so one's always charged. That didn't actually work. That wasn't enough. So then the next one is the two canisters in front of it, which are filled with catalytic activated carbon. They call it some special thing, but what's inside of it is catalytic activated carbon. And then that tube on the front is actually hydrogen peroxide, which is dosed into the carbon to create oxidation sites on the catalytic active carbon and keep it working. All right, so for the most part, man, this actually solved a lot of the fart smell. Yeah. But not really. So we went one step further, and I promised my wife that the water would be drinkable and usable, whatever. So I have a whole house RO. And so this is like 150 PSI RO system, produces about a gallon a minute. For those of you, that's like 1,500 gallons a day. Yeah. It actually has a waste to product water ratio. Produces like for every gallon of water, it's only half a gallon of waste. So it's really efficient. And it goes all the way from 500 TDS or 550 TDS down to 4. Right? So better than 99% rejection. It auto flush the whole thing. All right. So it turns out though, bad for the house is RO water. RO water will destroy all the plumbing, all the metal fixtures, so you can't have that. So they had to add this thing back in here, a remineralizer in the back. So this is filled with calcite and adds calcium and hardness back to the water.
And then fills up this bin.
Fills up the bin. And then finally, because the bin is not hermetically sealed, after that there is a UV as well. So UV keeps all the parasites and all other stuff out. All right. So here's the thing. The water is insanely good at this house now.
Yeah, from 570 to 4? Yeah.
Okay, but I don't have a really easy way to get water from there into the fish room. So that's why I put that secondary RO system in there. And even then, if I pulled it out of the tap, it would now be 40 TDS water because it's remineralized with a calcite. I don't really know what's in calcite and if there's any impurities in it. I just don't want to deal with it.
But nothing that a little 75 gallon per day RO membrane at 40 TDS, which is even lower than a lot of our households in the first place, can't just pull out. And I think it does really well. Did we test the TDS on the output of that?
Well, so it's 40 TDS coming into the RO system, and then coming out of it, I didn't check what it was.
I didn't check either.
I can tell you this, though.
After the 3 series, it's 0 for sure.
Yeah, it turns out that Pro Series resin that we use, which goes cation, anion, mixed bed, whatever all that household stuff is doing, the only thing that I'm consuming is actually the anion resin. That's it. Yeah.
So I mean, you processed 400 gallons of water through that.
I have the only one that I'm using. I don't know what's coming out of that water, but the only one that's actually getting depleted at any reasonable rate is the aniline, which makes that Pro Series 1 like way more cost efficient.
Oh yeah.
So I showed a video of it earlier, but it like consumed for 450 gallons. It burned through almost one entire anion. I didn't see any color change in the cation and none in the mixed bed after it. So I don't know, a really efficient use of that. But that's why no sediment filters, no carbon blocks, because I already got sediment filter and carbon blocks on the whole house, and I don't need it going in there.
Yeah, so at this point, because you don't have like a water change bin or water mixing station, really the only thing that this is getting used for is auto top off, right?
Yeah, in the fish room, only auto top off is its only role. And so I think actually, like, it made me wonder how many of you guys out there have your whole house, some kind of whole house filtration that already has a sediment filter or a whole house carbon block. And in that case, like, maybe like a configured system like this would be really efficient for you as well. So if you would like to see that, let us know, because I can certainly tell the guys to make one.
Make one, yeah.
All right, so we made an auto top off, or we used auto top off. Anybody guess which one we use?
I mean, of course.
Of course it's this one.
So you use what you rely on, and it worked for you for years.
Yeah, I've never had the sink fail me, so it's just the Tunes Osmolator.
We've done this kind of setup here, and this is kind of like my new favorite setup, and I'll go to it for any future tank. And I did it in my office too, and that's just feed the ATO box with a float valve and straight off of the RODI, and then just top off out of that. So it kind of always stays topped off. So if I was worried about TDS creep, this wouldn't be like the best solution, but because you have such low TDS anyway,
got efficient use of resin.
Yeah.
So if you can go back to that photo for just a second. So just so everybody knows what they're looking at, in that clear box, this is like most people would like pick up a trash can or whatnot and put a float valve in it.
Yep.
This is just an acrylic version of that. So there's a float valve in there off the RO system. It just stays full all the time.
Yep.
I also have, because I always want a redundancy, I've never actually had a float valve fail me catastrophically and flood the house, but other than the twist ones, actually. The adjustable ones, I've had that wing nut come loose.
Oh, yeah.
But outside of that one, I never had that happen, but that doesn't mean that it won't happen. So next slide is, if you can see in the back there's one of those flow locks. So it'll sense the water, and if it hits that little cotton pad, will open up and turn the water off, feeding that system.
So, and you can see here too that there's the polyethylene tubing, the 1/4-inch tubing coming off the Tunesy pump. And in order to do that, we just had to use a union that was a reducing union. So it went from, it's 3/8 to a 1/4-inch reducing push connect union, and that fits over the sleeve of the Tunesy pump and then turns it into a hard push connect fitting, which now means that we can run that output to the sump into another float valve, which you couldn't do with that soft tubing that comes with the Tunes.
Yeah, it was way easier. So, I didn't show a picture of that, sadly. So,
it might be in here.
Maybe I do have. I don't think I do have it, actually. Sadly. Well,
and pictures right after the first one's the heater.
Maybe in the heater one.
There you go. It's right there.
You can see right in the back there's a float. So in the center open canister, there's a float.
Yep.
So that is where the Tunes Osmolator empties into the tank. But like, obviously we got the optical eye and the float switch and all that.
Yep.
But I want one more. So if 10 gallons or a bunch of water ends up in the fresh water in the tank will survive. I'm not worried about that. Not an ideal situation, but it's not going to nuke the tank.
Yeah.
So what I am worried about is nuking my floor. So that float valve in there, if for some reason the internal timer, the float valve, and the optical valve all failed and it was a really bad day for me,
dumping water,
the float valve will almost certainly catch it. The float valve's so far out of the water, it's not getting salt creep or snails and stuff crawling on it. So I'm pretty confident in both the solutions for the auto top off. So filling the container, making sure the container's safe, and then dumping out of the container into the sump and making sure it's safe as well. Again, all that stuff actually is going to get upgraded in the future.
Off the floor, something else.
I just need the tank to be running right now. So I just need to be able to top it off and have the tank cycling. So I'm building like a whole custom RO system that's going to be really cool. But like it's not done yet. So, but I'm not going to let that hold me up. All right, so as you saw there, I think, was the next thing the heaters?
Yeah, then we also, so that was our ATO solution, and then we went to heaters.
Yeah, so these are the Chigo, like BRS, the titanium heaters.
2 600 waters.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see like how I might try just one and see like how far it gets me there. Yeah. But I got 2 in there for now.
They were difficult to chase around the back of the sump because there's like this much space between the wall and the sump, and we had to come from the side and then across the bottom.
Running wires is always hard.
Yeah.
However, at the end of it, like, you know what? We need to drill holes through the PVC, and so you just fish them down and drill a hole at the bottom.
A nice grommet, and it's good to go.
Yeah, so, because I'm like, man, there's going to be so many cords to come. Yeah, we got to figure out a different solution to this. So you'll see how we run wires through the wall soon. But we use the JBJ heater controllers. I don't got a picture of them, but they're underneath the sump. And, you know, we're out of the BRS ones, and like, I wish there was like a lot more options for heater controllers, to be honest.
So
but
what we didn't do was, I mean, you have all those energy bars underneath, and we didn't make that big mistake of plugging the titanium heaters directly into them. And we had to have some kind of heater controller for this, and we wanted to use the BRS heaters, which means we need an independent controller for them. JBJ was the answer.
Yeah, and for now, like, it was the one that is on the shelf at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, I read the reviews, and it's a little sketchy for me that they apparently, I don't know, the people say that the temp probe lacks luster. So I guess I'll see. I got to back up with my Apex, so I feel comfortable.
But probably something better on the way.
Yeah, so I'm looking for a better option. And by better, I mean reliable.
Yep.
I don't really care if it's 1/10 or 1 degree, or if it's got Wi-Fi control or any of that garbage. I just want to trust it, man.
Yep.
Like, that's the end of the story for me. And so I'm looking for that. And as soon as I find it, you'll definitely see it in the like in one of these episodes. Like, we found it. We replaced this other thing.
Yeah.
So you'll see that in there. Also, it was time, man. I think you saw this also on Facebook, but I mean, there's a recurring theme here. There's a lot, almost every day. I post
something new
on Facebook. You get to see like the stuff in real time. So for those of you who follow me, you're probably like, oh, I've seen a bunch of this stuff. You know, some days like there's like 4 posts a day of like what we're doing on this tank throughout the day. So you get to actually see the nitty-gritty. But even stuff like this one. I mean, I put a lock on the door. So I didn't want to use a key because I lose stuff all the time, and so I got a little like push button lock, and so that keeps my kids out, man. And so
just a place you don't need to have little kids around.
I don't need my 4-year-old going in the fish room. It's bad for the tank and bad for him. There's all kinds of test kit toxins and all kinds of other stuff that he just does not belong in there.
Yep.
And like, I don't want to worry about it, so I put a lock on it. And so he can't go in there. It's safer again. He won't be dropping pennies in there, you know, making wishes. So, all right. So, this is the big deal here. We're giving this guy away. So this is, in case you didn't know, this is what a Max Nano looks like. We're giving this thing away.
Even with the white, it's got the white cabinet too.
Yep, white cabinet, and that's the tank. And
that's something you saw featured on like the 5-minute guide series and whatnot too.
Oh, yeah, what? No, that was the E170.
Oh, it was the E170, sorry.
So this is a little smaller. And I'm pretty certain, I haven't tested it yet, but I'm pretty certain this Aquascape is going to fit inside of there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to spray foam container to be able to ship it to you. So somebody's going to win this thing.
Somebody's going to win it.
Yeah. All right. Now, all you really got to do is go over to my Facebook page, search for BRStv guy, or go down in the YouTube link pinned on the top.
Yeah, the comment pinned on this very video and in the description. You'll find both the links there.
This is like a little piece of history for me, man. I spent about 20 hours building this thing.
First time ever.
Today I'm gonna do that final video of how it all came together, all the steps I took, what I learned. So if you want to go over to Facebook again, you can see all that while you're like sign up. I haven't even figured out how you're gonna sign up, so it'll probably be in that video how you'll sign up to win it, or I don't know. But I don't know, man. For me, this is what I got out of it, actually, is this was such an artistic, creative process. Like, I really feel like it was something that I was proud of creating. And
more proud than stacking rocks.
I never stacked rocks in a way where I have felt ownership of it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
In this one, man, I started with one little rock. This whole wing is only connected at a quarter-size portion at the bottom, and all fits together really, really sweet. So I don't know. I will never probably stack rocks again in my life. Never is a strong word.
No, this is awesome.
I will always take the things that I've learned now and apply them to the next thing. And hopefully, this is my first one. I'm hoping that the 20th one is super mega awesome. I don't know. But yeah, for me, this was just a really cool extension of the hobby. I actually almost want to set up other tanks just to keep trying it.
Just to keep playing around.
In fact, one of the things you're going to see for sure when we create this video is one of the things you want to do is do a new series on flow dynamics.
Yeah.
So we're going to show you how the different pumps work, use those little beads and stuff, but use today's knowledge to give you a little bit more information than we gave you in the past.
Yep.
And so I think that we're going to build an Aquascape for either like a 120 or a 180. We'll use this, and then we'll use that to actually show you how all these pumps work with the Aquascape. I don't know, I'm super excited. All right, so I don't know what's coming up next week yet, exactly, but we'll just keep plugging away at this tank.
We've got a few things to work on.
You know what? Actually, I'm going to tell you right now.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you what lighting we
I'm learning for the first time. Oh, lighting.
Yeah,
Ooh.
we're not going to install it next week, but I'm going to share with
you're
you
gonna pick one.
What lighting I've decided. You know, so why wait? Like everybody's asking all the time, why wait for the big surprise? So I will let you know next week why and how we're going to do it. Maybe look at some designs and whatnot and how it's going to go in there. I still got to get Chris Benner over at Benner's Woodworking and Sticks and Stones to build the hood for it. He's been waiting on me to give him some dimensions of how I want to space everything. So hopefully that'll be like a month or two out from when I tell him.
Yeah.
But that'll be next week. So hopefully somebody wins this. Hopefully somebody wins the nano tank right next to me. I don't know if it's win. I just want to give back to the community, and it was super fun for me, specifically this project, to learn right along with you guys. Actually, thanks to Than as well, because I learned from him. And we'll see you guys next week.